Hello and welcome to another Maplestory 2 video. It's been a while since I did a video like this where I had a video regarding a specific class. This time we're obviously going to go with the Berserker. I figure I might as well update it. Since I've done so many CDev and CMOC runs recently, I completed them as well or cleared them. I figured I might as well share my build, and it's a personal build. And I've been seeing other people using different builds and such. Would like to cover them up as well. So, it's all about having experience with the mechanics and the raid itself, and then just try to do your best and have pretty good gear as well. So going off with the build, this build is a bit different from what I had before for my personal build. I removed points into death spin because death spin becomes a little bit less used, as you guys mentioned in my previous videos, that you don't really need 10 on the spin because once you get comfortable with the raids and such, you won't be spinning that much. So, and I agree on that. I removed all my points, or at least 7 points off from it. So I have the minimum for Groundbreaker, and having that, I'll max out my Groundbreaker. Obviously this is a Groundbreaker build. I have the minimum for Void Slash and Darkbreaker to unlock Warrior Instinct, which is something I recommend on every builds, because that 6.4% is really high piercing passive stats that you can get. You obviously won't get that high from equipments, for example, because you usually get, let's say, 1.9, 2.5, maybe 3%. There's not many people that has perfect max stats of 4% of equipment, for example. So Berserkers are really lucky, getting 6.4% piercing from just the passive skill. Really worth spending all your points into it. We will have Great Sword Mastery at 10 because obviously you do want to have increased weapon attack. Minimum on Intimidation, minimum on Deep Wounds, and then 1 point into Earthquake, because sometimes when you need to do ads and such, or when you need to go away from boss, for example in CMOC, if you're on ad duty on the towers, you're gonna need to leave the boss after a while. So you could place this down while it ticks, so you keep up with your 10 stacks, and then you can burst down the ads on the tower, for example. Or in general, just have increased damage every 60 seconds. Which is a really good skill, and it hits multiple enemies, so it does become a DPS increase for you if you're killing multiple enemies. Blood loss is at 6 with this build. Adrenaline rush is minimum on 2, and then we put everything on blood price. This is obviously similar to Slog's build, which is known Berserker in EU, and I think in pretty much every, like in the whole MS2 community, where yeah, he's pretty godly with his gear and such. So this is his build. Obviously I followed it and I feel like it's really good. I like the idea that I changed a bit, for example, from a death spin and put everything on blood price instead. And the reason for that is this is a burst build, having 11% of blood price for 30 seconds combined with rooted strength Lampantier. You're having 43% more damage, and then you can use buffs, etc. from your food consumables, and then you can use buff from Wizard, for example, and you get a ton of increased damage. So it's all about stacking, and obviously it's all about getting your equipments as well with really good stats to burst really high damage. I believe people said that Slug was dealing 900k per Groundbreaker, so that's a lot of damage in comparison to a Void Slash build, which is a little bit harder right now. But on the good side, I would say Void Slash works really well on a target that's stationary and you don't have any mechanics, such as the dummy and such. Void Slash will obviously be better for that when you're parsing. But when it comes to mechanics and such, I would say Groundbreaker is a little bit more forgiving and easier to move around, and has a big AoE, so you can be not too close, but at the same time you can be a little bit more of a medium range to slam if you feel insecure about attack patterns of a boss. Now there's another build that I would recommend. It's Meet Rainbow's build. Is one of the raiding members that I'm raiding with, another Berserker. We're playing with two different builds, obviously, but he's going with this build The only thing he changed was no blood price, no adrenaline rush. So we're not wasting 3 points if you think about it. He put the remaining points into bloodlust, so we have higher damage with the bloodlust as well as higher heal. So in case you need that heal, it's really, really good to, you know, keep yourself back up or recover yourself back up. And then deep wounds is getting pumped up with the remaining points. So deep wounds will have a higher tick damage, and obviously it's going to be a better choice for long-lasting battles. I'm not sure if it's higher total damage, but you know, I prefer having a burst build, so burst build is more of my choice rather than sticking to, you know, sustain damage for myself. I do like to live on the edge. I do prefer not having too much heal for myself and too much passive things, but everyone plays differently. So for the last build we are gonna cover up is the Void Slash build. It's not forgotten, it's not too bad. You know, it's all about personal preferences. I'm not gonna say this build is better than the other one. It's really up to you, but Void Slash is not forgiven or forgotten. Void Slash is really good as well for, you know, dungeons and maybe for raids. I haven't tried it out, but the recommendation was you remove remove points from Groundbreaker and Death Spin because that's not your main skill. It's a Void Slash build, so you put the remaining points into Void Slash, stack up to 10 stacks, and then you use Darkbreaker to fill in or to use up your 10 stacks, because otherwise it's going to be a waste. What you have, you still have Warrior Instinct with a piercing. You have Bloodlust as maxed for that filler, increased damage and high heal, lifesteal. And then you max out your deep wounds. So your overall sustained damage is going to be a lot with this build. A lot of people will be saying like, why aren't you placing points into Blood Price? And most people don't like Blood Price with Void Slash build. So Void Slash build makes you hit for a long time, for a long period, and you're going to lose out more health in comparison to Groundbreaker, for example. So it's up to you if you prefer to having that 5% extra damage for 30 seconds versus the Bloodlust, for example, that you can sacrifice. In my opinion, you know, since I've already gotten used to blood price, I would sacrifice 3 points of Bloodlust, spend the rest of the points into unlocking Blood Price at least level 1 for that 5% extra damage. This is just my personal preferences. Maybe this is the best Void Slash build if you think about it, because you do have the Blood Price unlocked and you have Deep Wounds maxed out. It's just Blood Price that's lowered over here. It's really up to you. If you do not like Blood Price, you can remove it. Just go back to maxing out your Bloodlust instead. And the reason you don't want to max out Earthquake is because it's a very long cooldown in comparison to Bloodlust. So having higher heal and higher damage every 8 seconds is much better than 60 seconds of high damage. But yeah, this is the Void Slash build. I'm not going to make any, you know, parsing video. This video is already quite long, 8 minutes in. I am going to cover up the last part regarding Berserkers and such. So if you do want to know about my parsing and such, how much I do, I deal about 10 million damage a minute with the Groundbreaker build. So, you know, it's really depending on your gear as well. So, yeah, stats. So with the stats, I do have 570 bonus attack. That's from my gemstones, from pet, and from the armor sets that I have, the legendary. If you have 3 pieces, you get 250 extra. I'm not sure if it shows up like that. I'm too lazy to remove and equip, but yeah, 570 extra bonus attack. You obviously can get higher the more I level my pet or if I level up my gemstones. Physical attack, just 97 extra from the equipment. Not too much, but you know, I plan on getting that up as well. Piercing is at 70% with the buff, house buff, so I'm at 30% as base. Obviously I can proc higher if I get my proc with Verkant Wings, then I'm up on 27% for 8 seconds. But I would recommend going with Balrog Wings, and I'll cover that up a little bit later on. Physical piercing, I don't have the best gloves, So I could get that higher up to get that 16.6% cap. You could use Dark Descent gloves to increase your physical piercing as well. So it's not really that bad or off while I'm using Legendary glove, for example, which doesn't really have that high of physical piercing at the moment. Accuracy is at 93. Obviously with the help of Kandura's Pendant and with the gemstones that I have. Otherwise, you do want to aim around 90. It's not always, mandatory. Don't follow too much about, what you need and what, don't follow too much of, what people are saying and such, or what's written. For example, I've seen Priest, for example, that has the base accuracy and they're still doing well because their role is to support, heal, and also DPS. They're not always DPSing, so it's not really always needed to have 90 plus accuracy as a priest, since you're healing in majority of the time, or in C-Dev at least. But yeah, critical rate, I didn't bother with that. Critical damage, I did not get any roll with critical damage, but it could look really nice to have a high crit damage. Melee damage, that's gonna be changed once I get Balrog wings, for example. And I also have a belt right now that doesn't really give me, or a ring that doesn't really give me much melee damage, but it's something that we'll be investing into it when I reroll. Boss damage, 10.5%, not that high. I've seen people with higher numbers. For example, my knight has even higher number because I've gotten more lucky with the damage to boss stats on my equipments. So going off, strength is your main ability or main attribute points. Want to spend everything on strength because we're not focusing too much on critical at the moment. I do believe a lot of people are saying strength is probably going to be the best stats no matter what. And I kind of agree because you do get two stats out of it. You get physical resistance and you increase your damage as well. So it's a really nice stat. So going off, weapon, plus 15. I do not have two purple stats, but it's pretty good, having physical piercing because I don't have a necklace that gives me physical piercing, so having physical piercing as a secondary stat is okay. You could go for other stats, like I mentioned in my stats video, but I went with piercing and physical piercing on my weapon. For the boots, I got 3% damage to boss. I do have an accuracy boot, legendary one. That's only going to be needed for me to enter Papulatus or Clock Tower. But other than that, I do prefer having offensive stats over accuracy because that can be socketed with gemstones instead. But I am using a 3% shoe at the moment. For ring, 2.5% piercing, 1% melee damage. That's where I got my melee damage. I do plan on re-rolling on this so I can have higher melee damage. I wish I could get boss damage, but this is already good enough. Melee damage and piercing is already two good stats, so I'm not going to plan on re-rolling on this, except for the values of melee damage. Socketed, 3 slots. I do have an accuracy gemstone over here. I started to add some strength because I figured I might as well. I feel like bonus attack is going to fall off a little bit later on, so I am going with strength a little bit instead of using too much of bonus attack, because you are getting bonus attack from your pet as well. And having strength, I do have an OCD of getting above 500 at least. So yeah. For gloves, I did have better gloves. I had 4.2%. You could use Dark Descent gloves or the one in Trevor. It gives you a higher physical piercing. In the long run, you are going to need the gloves that are legendary to enter Clock Tower. So I am already planning on trying to get better gloves with higher physical piercing. But otherwise, my previous one had 4.2%. It's not really a big difference. I used the legendary one because of the set effect. It gives me 250 bonus attack when I'm having 3 equipments that are legendary. So that's the only reason why I picked this over my purple one. As for belt, I recently re-rolled. I re-rolled a lot of belts, but this one was a perfect one. I just need to re-roll the values of it. I have piercing and damage to boss belt, so all I need is higher piercing and I will be Gucci. Earrings, 3 slots already. Got bonus attack on this one instead. Trying to get as high as possible with the gemstones. I have piercing, which is really low, 0.3%, the lowest value you can get. I need to re-roll my earrings, but I also got 3% damage to boss on this one. So 2 perfect stats on equipments, but they all need some values being changed to higher stats. For helmet, I did not find any good damage to boss helmet or strength or physical attack helmet. So what I did is I went with Veracant horns. I would not recommend going past +10 because you're gonna need another Veracant horn to upgrade it. So +10 is the minimum or maximum I would recommend for the gear score, at least that's being required. I obviously have a legendary headpiece which doesn't really have the best stats. It's only 5 physical attack, but it's going to be used instead as a replacement for me to enter Clock Tower. But for right now I do prefer this one because it gives me 11.5% more damage for 8 seconds, and it does have some better stats in general in comparison to my legendary one. It's not really necessarily for me to get 5 set item until I get the weapon from Clock Tower. For necklace, Candorist pendant, I get 7 extra accuracy over here. I do get that blood price effect sort of when you lose health, but you do have increased damage 3% no matter what, so you do lose health every time you attack. Not something I would recommend for every classes, but the 7 accuracy is really nice, and obviously bloodlust. As a Berserker, you can lifesteal, and you won't struggle too much with this. Obviously, having more sockets unlocked would be better. I don't have that. I already tried to unlock socket twice. I failed twice. It's 50% RNG. For chest piece, I have 1.5% on a legendary piece. Needed the chest and the bottom. Obviously, I needed 3 pieces of legendary for that extra 250 attack. So my previous gear was 2%, so it's not really that much of a big difference. I mean, it's 0.5% damage loss over there, but I do get higher defense, and I also get the set effect. So I think it was worth it upgrading my legendary. For now, I could obviously get higher damage to boss. I'm probably going to do that in the long term, but for now, since Clock Tower is going to come out soon, I'm already preparing myself for that. So for the pants, only have 8 strength pants. Not the best stats, but I am using it for the 3 set bonus effect. My previous pants had 2% damage to boss. I feel like I might as well sacrifice it for the 3 set bonus attack. So that's what I did. I am planning on getting new chest and new pants, and obviously new helmet, because the helmet is not the best. Shoes might be something I would replace as well, but later on I might need accuracy, so it's still there as a backup. For wings, we're gonna use Veracant wings because that's the only item I got. I wasn't lucky with Absolute Cape, so I got Veracant wings as a drop. I did not buy this, so I was really lucky. I'm using it for now. I am planning on farming Balrog wings. Balrog wings is gonna be my go-to last best in slot cape, and the reason for that is when you do 7-man Chaos Devorak, you are gonna get rewarded if you complete it with 7-man with the cape and belt rerollers. So my belt is already rerolled, really nice. All I need to do now is farm every week 7-man and reroll for the stats or the values of my belt, and for the cape I need to find the Balrog wing so I can reroll the cape for higher stats if I want to go for high piercing and melee damage. So that's my plan, and this is all I have to show. I know it's been a very long video. Sorry if I did not make it faster or anything. I figured I might as well make it properly, a full video about my character, my progression, my builds and such. So I do apologize if it's a long video. I appreciate that you guys stayed for so long. It's gonna be a 20-minute video, I know, and I'm glad I did not do any parsing video because that's gonna take even longer. But I would say, yeah, I have around 10 million or so when I parse with my build. So it's all about the gear. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'm gonna link the description down below with the image link for the skill builds that I showcased, and I'll link the Twitch link for my raid member, because he's streaming our Chaos Mock and Chaos Devorek when we do those. So feel free to drop by him. I am trying to stream as much as possible as well. I just don't have the time to do it because of the amount of raid. I'm actually in 2 raid groups that I need to help out. But other than that, I'll try to stream as much as I can, and obviously I try to upload as much as I can on YouTube. So I'll leave his Twitch on the description below as well. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.